You are listening to The Confidence Project, episode number 144. Welcome to The Confidence Project. I am your host, certified life coach Lærke Nielsen, and I help smart women who doubt themselves calm their overthinking brain so they can stop hiding in the background and instead speak up and take confident action. In this podcast, we are shifting your identity. You're becoming a woman who believes in yourself and who wants to live her best life starting today. Hey there. If you are like anyone else, you probably have caught yourself spinning in overthinking, overanalyzing, and over-researching, and being stuck in indecision when you actually knew that you already had all the information you needed and all you had to do was just in front of you. You just had to make a decision and move forward. But your brain just didn't want to let you. It wanted you to search for more information and think about it one more time or wait until you felt 100% ready. Overthinking is absolutely one of my favorite topics as I have so much experience in it. I would say if I had counted how many hours I spent in my life overthinking, I seriously don't even want to know. I don't want to know. And I'm one of these people who even have spent time overthinking my overthinking. Overthinking how to get rid of overthinking. Overanalyzing, wanting to explore all options, researching, Googling, reflecting, thinking in small circles, and sitting inside my brain for hours, thinking without actually making progress, or making a decision or moving forward. Or I could be making a decision and then second guessing it and starting all over again. It is all overthinking. And you know what? It's very common. And if you're a smart woman, it's even more common. So take that as a compliment. But of course, you might have noticed that it's also very time consuming and sometimes it's very draining and it can even trigger anxiety. And in the long run, overthinking is breaking your trust with yourself. So just let that sink in for a moment. When you allow yourself to stay stuck in overthinking instead of making the decision and moving forward, it breaks your trust with yourself. So in this episode, I'm going to be talking about why do we do it anyway? Why do we overthink when we know it's basically a waste of time? What are the upsides? And this might sound counterintuitive, but there are always upsides to these things, at least on the short term. And then what are the downsides? I'm going to be talking a little bit about that as well. But most importantly, I'm going to give you 3 steps to stop the overthinking, to get yourself out of this loop and start taking action and moving forward. And believe it or not, I almost went into overthinking while preparing this episode. Because when I started thinking about what to include, I realized there is so much to say about this topic. I will never be able to do a podcast episode about it because the more I think of it, the more comes up and I lose the overview of where to begin and what to include next and the structure of the whole episode and what to exclude and why. And when I could talk about the things I would exclude because I can't put everything in there, but there's so much value that I also want to share and that's important to talk about. And how can I choose between all this information? And you know how it goes. You overwhelm yourself to the point where you just cannot do it. You lose the overview and you feel that you have to go and rest on the couch. And you realize that you are not at all ready to do this. And you need more time to think about how to approach it. And you need to replan all your activities because you need to have enough time to do this in a way that feels okay. Because it's got to be the best possible version, right? And the more you think about doing a project, the better you want it to be, because otherwise it wouldn't justify the time that you already spent. And it's also so frustrating that every time you make a choice, there is also something you choose to not do. So this way of thinking feels very true and very important, but after half an hour, you can't even imagine how to crack this code and start writing if that is what you're going to do. And the project has become too vast and you are now considering whether to just choose another topic, do something else, or postpone until next week. Now, I didn't get to that point, otherwise I wouldn't have this episode out here, but I could have easily done that if I didn't see what was going on and managed to take a step back and go, brain, really? Is that how we're gonna do this? But I admit it's a bit longer episode than my episodes are normally, and this is mainly because I'm gonna walk you through some examples of how to break the loop of overthinking, and they are a bit long. But I decided to include that because otherwise it can become very theoretical, and I wanted to show you a method that you can use to stop overthinking. Basically, you're coaching yourself out of it, and I hope you will find that valuable. Anyway, I decided to distinguish between two kinds of overthinking. So the first one is decision overthinking, which is covering many, many different areas in life, because basically every time we do something, we make a decision. And then I wanted to separate it from what I would call social overthinking. And social overthinking is sort of when you try to read someone's mind. When you try to guess, what did they think of me? Why didn't he text me back? Is he still into me? And this is very typical in dating, for instance. We think a lot about what the other person think of us. And decision overthinking, on the other hand, is basically everything where we make a decision or a micro decision in life. This could be working on a project at work, or it could be organizing an event privately, like a big party or vacation. Maybe you're renovating or decorating your home. Situations where there is something you want to do, you have committed yourself to, and it requires you to make a lot of micro decisions. What to include and what not to include, and which order to do things in, and what is the level of perfection I want to do this in, and what else do I need to know to be able to make the right decisions, or even if it's just one decision, say yes or no to a job, you feel a big responsibility towards this decision, so you want to make it just right. And this brings you into a loop of overthinking, and this loop begins basically when you commit yourself to some kind of project or some kind of decision, and your brain says, we want to make it absolutely right, you can't miss this one up. And then you start fear making it wrong. Your brain will exaggerate to you the importance of making the right decision, and it will catastrophize making the wrong one. And also, if you are smart and competent, you also probably have really high expectations to yourself. So that also adds to the pressure you feel. And this all brings you thoughts about what can go wrong. What will people say or think? And if things go wrong, then what will people say about me? What will I think? How would I feel? Would I be embarrassed or awkward? Would I feel like a failure? All these thoughts can spin in the back of your mind, almost like there's a thread. Your level of fear is rising, even if you might not be conscious about this. And this fear is fueling more overthinking, more analysis, and keeping you more stuck. We need to know more, we need to be 100% sure. And the stuckness confirms to your nervous system that it's a big thing that you're doing right now. You have to get it right. And when we're not moving forward, that also increases our self-doubt and feeling of stagnation. And this self-doubt will lead you again to more overthinking. And so now the loop is created. You can feel completely stuck and paralyzed because now that you've already spent hours overthinking, your brain definitely won't allow you to make a decision and move forward because you've shown yourself that this decision is difficult. And the more you dive into data and research, the more information you get, the more you can see things from a million different angles, and it's more and more difficult to make a decision. And it feels overwhelming to the point where your brain is exhausting you. It feels like your brain is abusing you. It's your enemy. It's keeping you hostage in overthinking land, and you can no longer get away. When we overthink, it's often because we believe it will give us more clarity, more overview, and more certainty. We think, I have to be sure of this. Let me analyze the situation again. Or we think it will bring us the feeling of being ready. If I think of it one more time, or if I sleep on it, and I run it through my head again, then I might feel ready. And especially as a smart person, you want to get it right. As I said before, you have high expectations to yourself. You want to make the right decision, and you are aware of how much information there is out there. and that you want to have an overview of before you can progress. You're good at analyzing, strategizing, and you're also able to see a question and a solution from more than one angle. So you're also aware of all the information that's available and that you haven't looked at yet. But here's the thing. At some point, you actually have enough information. And even if you could go and search for more, it wouldn't make your decision better. And the more you overthink, the less calm and the more anxious you start feeling. You lose track of time. You have to replan your agenda. And you fall into a deep rabbit hole and get even more indecisive. And this is a time where you have to stop yourself. You don't need more research. You don't need more information. You don't need to analyze it one more time. You just need to make a decision and then stick to it. But it feels so uncomfortable to do that when you are in the momentum of overthinking. You just want to continue. There is just this one more thing you have to think about and you have to check it online. You want to postpone the moment where you have to stop thinking and start taking action. And that's because moving forward and making that decision to say yes to the job or posting an article or sending an important email or opening that dating profile after being single for a while, that all feels scary. It's vulnerable. You're putting yourself out there. You're taking a risk. And what if it's not the right job for you and you will feel awkward and uncomfortable? And what if your article won't land with people and they will ignore it, or they will get the wrong idea in their head about who you are? Or what if your colleagues see you on the dating app? And what if everyone just gets ideas in their heads about your intention and your personality? Ideas that are totally wrong. What if you just didn't make the right decision here? So you don't need more information, but it's associated with a lot of discomfort to move forward. And so your brain comes up with this great idea. Hey, what if we just overthink a little bit more? Like this, you don't have to make a decision right now. You can stay in your comfort zone and spin in thoughts and hide. Because this is the truth. Your overthinking is really a smart brain's way of protecting you from the potential discomfort that comes with moving forward. Your brain doesn't overthink to find truth. It overthinks to find safety and certainty. And it overthinks because it is scared of many different feelings that could be embarrassment, regret, failure, feeling not good enough, or feeling judged, feeling that you're being too much, or even being visible, because that could give you vulnerability hangovers. At this stage, you are not overthinking because you need more information, but because you don't want to feel these uncomfortable feelings. Overthinking is a warm and comfy safety blanket that your brain has wrapped you in, and it's tempting you to just stay in there in the comfort zone of indecision and inaction. As long as I need to sleep one more time on it and do a bit more research tomorrow, or edit that profile one more time, or go over the pros and cons list one more time, then I'm safe. If only I analyze it once again, I will feel more certain. It's an intellectual excuse to postpone discomfort. It feels responsible. It feels necessary, important. It feels like there's a benefit at the end of it, and the result will be better and you will feel more ready and more confident. Because thinking, analyzing, reflecting, researching, and so on, it feels very justified. You are not just lying on the couch, right? Well, maybe you are, but your brain is working. You're putting your brain to work. It feels like an intellectual necessity. But it's just the smart brain's excuse to avoid discomfort. Thinking becomes a delay tactic, an emotional avoidance strategy, and it keeps you stuck and doesn't make you more ready or certain or confident. Often, it actually does the opposite. Besides from keeping you stuck and non-productive and not doing the things you want in life, not making decisions, not moving forward, not making your dreams reality, besides from all that, it also can take a lot of your time. The return of investment is actually not that great. But what happens when you constantly hold yourself back with self-doubt and second-guessing and telling yourself that you're still not ready to make a decision? You break the trust in yourself. You show yourself that you cannot be trusted by repeatedly needing more time, more analysis, and just one more Google search. This behavior reinforces your self-doubt. And at some point, it can feel overwhelming because you get too much information and you're about to drown in it. And at the same time, your brain keeps telling you that you need more. So it's almost like an addiction. It's a mental addiction. Your brain is addicted to thoughts. And this can trigger a low-level anxiety and confusion. And in some cases, the more you overthink, the more you continue to overthink. It's like the brain wants to justify the already done overthinking, and you feel less certain of your ability to make a decision because you've already told yourself that you can't yet. And when is it enough? You can't stop halfway, right? So I just want to make it clear, I'm not saying that you're not allowed to think things through. I mean, that's quite important. We are talking about overthinking here, not just thinking. So how do you actually see the difference between when you are productively thinking and when you are overthinking? You can ask yourself, is this process giving me more clarity, or is it giving me more anxiety or confusion? Is it a positive or negative feeling that I get from this process? Do I feel more calm the more I think about this, or do I feel more anxious? And also, does this process lead to action or inaction? Obviously, when we overthink, we don't actually get more clarity. We get more information, yes, but it doesn't lead to more clarity. We also don't feel calm, and we also do not take action at all. So how do you break the loop? You can start by creating the best possible conditions ahead of time before you start on a project. Then decide ahead of time how much time you want to spend on it, and then be realistic, but do not allow for overthinking time. And then when you notice you're getting into the overthinking, you can go through these 3 steps. And I've tried it out and I promise you it works. And here you can ask yourself some of the same questions as I mentioned before to distinguish between productive thinking and overthinking. So you want to ask yourself, am I even moving forward? Am I getting more clarity? Am I getting more answers? Or am I just looping? Do I feel more overwhelmed and confused, or do I feel more calm and productive the more I think? And once you have identified that you are in overthinking, you want to stop the process and move forward. And step number 1 to get you out of the overthinking is to do some self-coaching. And you do that by journaling your answers to specific questions that I'm going to give you in a moment. And it's very important that you journal by hand, that you don't just think of your answers in your head, but you actually journal out your answers on a piece of paper. It's really important that you write it down, because what happens when we write down our thoughts is that it slows down the brain. And because you are not going to write the same thought twice, you also focus a little bit more on what is really going on here and stop your brain from recycling the same loop of thoughts. So you want to take a piece of paper and a pen, and then you want to do this little self-coaching exercise. So the questions you want to ask yourself are, what is the story my brain is telling me? And what is the feeling I'm avoiding? Do I want my fear of this feeling to keep me stuck? What other stories could be true? And what is the next action I can take, even if it's one small step? And finally, how can I have my own back? And I'm going to give you some examples in a moment so you can see it applied in a more concrete way. So 6 questions. What is the story my brain is telling me? What is the feeling I'm avoiding? Do I want my fear of this feeling to keep me stuck? What other stories could be true? What is the next action I can take, even if it's just a small step? And how can I have my own back? So you want to get clarity on what it is you need to remind yourself to stick to the decision you made and to not go back and regret or go back and start the research and start the overthinking again. And then step number 2 is you want to take that action. Go ahead and do it, even if you don't feel ready. If you wait to feel ready, you might never take action because this feeling might never come. And usually it happens when you do move forward. That's what makes you feel ready. You make a decision and you say, now is the time. And you want to be willing to feel that discomfort while you take action. You want to be prepared that this is going to happen. And if you stop yourself from doing things until you feel absolutely safe and certain and ready, you will never move forward. There will always be some reason why you're not 100% certain about this. So be willing to feel that discomfort while you take action. And that could be something like speak up in a meeting or ask a question, set a boundary to someone, apply for a job, send a message, or open a dating profile. All these kind of things that you do because there's something on the other side that you want. And of course, taking this action could make you feel some level of discomfort. And then step 3 is now you want to have your own back and you want to stick to what you have decided. You want to stop your brain from criticizing you or telling you it was a mistake and you didn't think enough about it yet. You were not ready. You feel embarrassed now. You feel this is not going the way you wanted. It was the wrong decision. And all these catastrophic thinking that might come up right after taking action or right after making a decision. Here, you want to really support yourself. You want to really be loyal to yourself and remember the things that you decided in the first step. What are the things I need to remind myself of when I have finally taken action and I know I'm going to feel a lot of discomfort, I'm going to feel overwhelmed, I'm going to feel vulnerable, and all the things. You want to remind yourself of this, which is basically the reasons why you are doing the thing that you're doing, whether that is applying for a job or setting up a dating profile. You want to remember what was driving you to do that. So do not allow yourself to second guess your decisions. Stick to it. And instead of doubting whether that was now the right decision and should you have done something else, then decide to make it the right decision. Find the reasons why it's the right decision and make the best out of it. Be loyal to yourself. Don't start to judge or criticize yourself in this phase. And know that growth only comes when you are willing to take a risk, and you just did that. So be proud of yourself and learn from it. And then after that, another thing that I normally do and that I think is working really well is to go for a walk or move your body in one way or the other. Because all the feelings we have, this is energy that you have in your body and you can process it while walking or biking. And it can be useful to remove yourself physically from the workspace or the place where you've been stuck. So I'm going to give you some examples here. Imagine you are considering applying for a job. You actually have sort of decided you're going to apply, but then you start overthinking it. And you are looking at the job description and you have your computer open to start writing an application and updating your CV. And it's just not really moving forward. The cursor is just blinking at you and there's no word on the document. You have not even started. And now it's been several hours. So you do realize that you are overthinking, and here's some of the thoughts that you might have in this situation. I don't know if I'm qualified. There might be other applicants that are much better than me. I'm not sure if I even want to put myself through this. What if the job is boring? What if people are not nice? What if the salary is too low? What if I will regret? What if I don't make it through the trial period? What if I will get stressed out? And what if I will miss my colleagues? And what if I will miss doing something I know really well how to do? So you have identified that you're overthinking and now you want to stop the loop. And you will start by doing the self-coaching part, asking yourself the 6 questions. Number 1, what is the story that my brain is telling me? Well, in this case, it could be you might not get that job. And even if you do, you might regret. So it's a lose-lose situation, right? This could be the story your brain is telling you. And then you want to ask yourself, what am I avoiding by overthinking? There is a big fear here of the unknown. That is what I would be avoiding here. The unknown, or fear of regretting, or it could be fear of rejection. Putting yourself out there, being vulnerable, and then being rejected. Now the next question is, do I want my fear of this feeling to keep me stuck? And of course, you don't want that. At least there's a reason why you have decided to apply for this job. There's something on the other side. And if you imagine you are 85 looking back at your life, would you regret applying for this job? Or would you more regret letting fear stop you? In most cases, you probably would realize that you don't want to let fear stop you from this. You want to try it. And then you want to look at what are some other stories that could be true. What else could be true besides from what your anxious brain is telling you? Yeah, well, I could actually get the job and I could grow a lot in it. Or maybe I could really enjoy it. Maybe it would be the best decision ever. And the colleagues are really nice and I learn a lot of new stuff and it opens new doors for me. And then what is the next small action I can take? That could be write the cover letter or it could be just update your CV. And the final question in the self-coaching part is, how can I have my own back? And here, of course, you can think something like you have really nothing to lose because if you do not apply, you will never get the job. And if you get a job interview and everything goes well and they invite you to the second round, well, you can always pull out. You can always withdraw your application if you find out this is not something for you after all. And maybe you also want to think of yourself as someone who's willing to try new things, someone who's willing to grow and learn. And you could decide that the success criteria is actually just applying, sending the job application. It's not getting the job. It's not getting the job and be happy with everything in it and never look back and never regret or never miss your old job. The only success is to just apply, just send the cover letter, send the CV. It's the first step. It's a success because you do not move forward unless you take that first small step. And step number 2 is then, of course, go ahead and do that. Do what you have decided to do. Do not stop yourself halfway. Commit yourself to taking that first small step that you just decided. And so the last step is where you want to have your own back after taking action. And this is actually really important for you to be able to break this pattern, to break this loop and move forward in a good way. We can almost see it as if you are putting out a safety net for yourself. You are jumping and then you are making sure that there's a safety net because moving forward after having been stuck in overthinking, it will most likely create a lot of discomfort. So now you want to stop yourself from running back and undoing the things you did or regretting it or feeling overwhelmed by all sorts of uncomfortable feelings such as embarrassment or self-criticism of one or the other kind, or having catastrophic thoughts about what can happen now, or thoughts about this being a wrong decision. You want to stop all that and instead you want to just sit with these uncomfortable emotions and remind yourself that this is completely normal. All this discomfort is completely normal and is part of breaking the pattern. It's part of taking action and putting yourself out there. And nothing has gone wrong. This is not a sign that you made a wrong decision. And then you want to remind yourself of the things that you thought about in the first step when you did the self-coaching. And in this example with the job application, of course, the things you want to remind yourself is you have nothing to lose because if you don't apply, you will never get the job. And if you apply, well, you can always withdraw your application if you change your mind. And you always have to take that first step forward if you want to change something in your life. So instead of ruminating about whether it was a right or a wrong decision and whether you wrote the perfect cover letter, then just remind yourself that success is writing a cover letter and sending the application. Success is not writing the perfect cover letter or getting the job. Success is just sending the application. So be proud of being someone who's willing to learn and grow and who's willing to put yourself out there and move forward. And then if you have the possibility, go for a walk because your nervous system might be a little bit activated in this situation. And it's actually really good to move your body and process some of all these emotions. So that was one example. Another example could be in the mind reading category. And this is a classical one that I think a lot of you will recognize when you are dating someone and you are wondering, why didn't he answer my text yet? Now, you can realize that you're overthinking because this is just something that keeps popping up in your brain during the day and it's interrupting your work and it's interrupting everything that you're doing. You keep thinking about what is happening. Why didn't he answer? You keep checking your phone to see if he he answered yet. And you also keep checking if he's been online or not. And you read your last messages to see if there could be something that he could have misunderstood. And you also reread his last messages to see if there was something that you missed out on. Was there like a shift in tone, or was there something that you didn't see between the lines? And most likely when we think a lot about this is because we are afraid that the guy we are dating is withdrawing or that he's losing interest. And maybe you even have thoughts like, I'm not that important to him. Maybe he is ghosting me. He doesn't even respect me enough to tell me it's over. Or I'm not interesting enough to him. I'm not attractive enough or funny enough. Maybe he's seeing someone else. All these thoughts are very, very normal to think in this situation when you're dating someone. I've had so many clients who had these kind of thoughts, and also I recognize from myself. So you want to just know that you're completely normal if these are thoughts that pop up in your brain when you are waiting for a text to be answered. But of course, it's not very nice to have this going on in your life, and it's taking a lot of your energy. It's making you a little bit anxious, and also you're not able to be present in your life. If you are doing something with someone else, you keep having this in the back of your mind, so you want to stop this kind of overthinking. So now is the time to do the 3 steps, and the first one is the self-coaching. And the first question is, what is the story my brain is telling me? And basically here you can say your brain is telling you 2 different stories at the same time. First of all, it's telling you that if you think a lot about this and you look at your own text and you look at his text and you think about what happened in the past couple of days, that you will be able to figure out what is going on in his mind. That there are some answers that you can find by thinking about this, and it serves you to think a lot about it. And the second thing that your brain is telling you is something that is very typical. If we have just a little bit of anxious tendencies, your brain is telling you that you might be rejected and you might feel a lot of hurt and pain very soon. And it's better to worry ahead of time because then it will hurt less and you will not be so disappointed. This is something our brain tells us in all areas of life. Worry is necessary, and the more you worry about things, the more prepared you are and the less pain you will feel. And this is of course not true. You will still feel pain if you like this guy. It will still feel like a big disappointment. And what is also true is that when you worry about this, you don't enjoy what you're doing and you don't enjoy your relationship or dating connection. You don't enjoy being with other people because you have this in the back of your mind. And so you don't actually enjoy life when you worry a lot about things that might and might not happen. But it's very normal to think that. It's very normal to believe that if I worry about something, I almost can prevent it from happening, or at least I can do some damage control. It will be less painful if it happens. There is a lot of discomfort in uncertainty, so just accepting that you don't know what's going on, you don't know why he didn't answer yet, and you cannot figure that out by reading previous messages or trying to figure out his normal communication style and so on. You cannot figure that out. You cannot read his mind. And even if you could, then what about the next text that goes unanswered for a couple of hours? Or what about all the small signs that we can wonder about when we meet someone new and we don't really know them that well yet, and we worry about what they think about us and whether they're going to withdraw? There's a lot you don't know in the beginning of a relationship and in early dating, and there's a high level of uncertainty, and this uncertainty feels very uncomfortable. It feels very triggering, and it can actually feel so triggering that it's almost like it's better to assume that he's leaving you. It feels more painful, of course, but it's almost like you would rather choose to think that there's something wrong than to hold this uncertainty until you know more. So what is the feeling you're avoiding by overthinking? Now, this is where your brain is kind of lying to you and telling you that you can avoid pain by overthinking and worrying ahead of time. Since you have not been rejected yet, you actually do not avoid pain by overthinking. You don't even know if you're going to be rejected. And if you were, you would still feel pain. But this is the lie that your brain tells you. If you worry ahead of time, it will feel less painful. But also, there is a big vulnerability in uncertainty. And when we don't know what's going on, we are in uncertainty. And this is what we're trying to avoid by overthink. We're trying to figure out what's going on in his mind instead of just leaving that open and say, I don't know. I really don't know. And it doesn't matter how much I think about it, I still will not have the answers. That uncertainty can feel so triggering and so uncomfortable that it's almost like we would rather just assume he's probably leaving me. Now, do you want your fear of this feeling to keep you stuck? And we can say in this situation, it's not really about being stuck in the sense that you need to make a decision and take some actions. It's more about being stuck in a thought loop and in a lot of worry that is taking your energy and your ability to be present. So it's a different kind of stuck. And so the real question becomes, do you want the fear of rejection and do you want the discomfort of uncertainty to keep you from being present in your life, to keep you from doing the things you normally do, and to take all your brain energy? And I would say here, of course, the answer is no, you don't. You don't want that to drain you because you're missing out on your life. And there is absolutely no way you can control another human being by worrying or thinking about why he didn't answer your text yet. So you do not want this feeling to keep you stuck, most likely. And the next question you want to ask yourself is, what else could be true? Instead of believing that he's about to leave you, well, maybe he could be busy. Maybe he's actually waiting for a time where he has a little bit more a chance to give you a proper response instead of just answering very quickly. Or he didn't feel it was an urgent message, so he would rather get back to you later. And then you want to ask yourself, what is one small action you can take or the next action you can take? And this could be calling a friend or going out for a walk or listening to a podcast or reading a book or doing some of the things that you would normally do. And try to not completely suppress the thoughts you have about why didn't he answer my text yet, because that is impossible. We can't control our thoughts, but you can choose to not worry about them. You can choose to just let them be somewhere in the back of your mind while you deliberately focus on what you're doing in your life right now. That could be your next action. And then, of course, you want to find out, how can I have my own back in this? And here I would suggest just reminding yourself that no matter how much you think about whatever he's doing, you cannot figure that out from a distance. You cannot read his mind. So no matter how much you worry about this, you will not find the answer before you actually either see him or you hear from him. And also, the moment you decide to no longer engage in your worrying thoughts, it's going to feel uncomfortable because your brain just told you that you need to worry in order to feel less pain in case you will be rejected. It's important for you to worry a lot because it's damage control. So here you want to remind yourself that it's not doing anything good for your present life to worry about something that didn't happen yet. And also it will not prepare you in any way for anything that you are not present in your life and you're not doing the things that normally bring you joy. So once you've done the self-coaching, of course, the step 2 and 3 comes easy because it's taking the action, whether that is going for a walk, listening to a podcast, calling a friend, or doing something else. And then it's having your own back in the way I just walked you through. So that was 3 steps to break the cycle of overthinking. And if you do this often, you will very quickly identify when you are overthinking. You just identify it and you just realize, okay, this is the feeling I'm afraid of. I'm not going to let that stop me. Here's the action I want to take. Go ahead and take it and then be prepared. I'm going to have some discomfort now. It's part of the process. It's completely normal. It's not going to stop me. And on the other side of this action, there is a benefit. There is something. There's a reason why I want to do this. And that's where I'm going to go to. Whether that is getting the job or going on a dating app or make a decision to buy a new flat or whatever, big as well as small decisions. The art of letting go of overthinking and procrastinating is actually surprisingly simple. It's allowing discomfort while moving forward. Allow yourself to feel whatever comes up when you take action and then not let that stop you. You can say that the antidote to overthinking is emotional tolerance. And you can also ask yourself why this feeling you fear is so horrible. Why does it have so much power over you? What is the problem feeling it? Because as long as you let fear stop you, you give it power. Moving forward in spite of it and together with the fear is the only way to take back your power. And on the other hand, you can say once you master that, once you are not letting fear stop you, well, there is really no limits to what you can do in your life. So try to close your eyes and imagine that feeling. Try to notice, where does this feeling sit in your body? How would you describe it? Is it warm or cold? Is it like a dense or a fluffy thing? Is it big or small? And is it moving or is it still? And try to let it stay in your body for a moment and see what happens. And then ask yourself, was it really that bad? Do I really want to let that feeling stop me from doing the things I want in life? Whether that is having a fulfilling career, having a purposeful business, or having the relationship you dream of and long for. Make your dreams reality, in other words, and create an extraordinary life. Do you want to let that one stupid feeling stop you from all that? Of course you don't. You are meant for more. Now, if you struggle with overthinking or holding yourself back out of fear of whatever comes up on the other side of action, then I want to invite you to book a call with me, because I can help you overcome that fear and overcome that resistance in yourself and move forward with confidence. Stop the overthinking and be more productive with your time, because in the end, it is costing you way too much to be stuck in loops of overthinking, and it is draining your precious brain energy. So book a call and let's talk about how I can help you and what you want to create in life. What are the big and the small things you want to do next? I can't wait to hear from you. Thank you for listening all the way to the end, and have a wonderful week. If you like what you're hearing on this podcast, I would be happy if you can give me a rating and a review and share the podcast with a friend. And if you now feel inspired to do this work and become a woman who fully believes in herself, then book a free call on the link in the show notes. I would love to talk to you.